What's up YouTube? So today I will be doing a review on the latest episode of Toriko anime, episode 110, sub showing his true ability, a taste of Komatsu's honoring the food. Now first and foremost, before you click away, even if you do not watch the Toriko anime, I highly suggest you watch this video. This is an awesome episode, and even if you don't watch the episodes and you just read the manga, I really think that you should really watch this episode and the episode before. This is pretty much a 2-episode arc, and I personally think it's like typically you get like those types of fillers, right? And basically, if you don't know what a filler is, it's essentially something where the anime creators decide to put in a little extra bit of plot, usually some sort of arc or something that tends to add to the episodes, but at the same time they usually tend to be very fluffy, and they don't actually add anything great to the plot because they're not the original creators of the manga, and they also don't want to conflict with the actual plot or add in stuff that might end up conflicting later when the actual creator starts making more of the plot. But with this episode, I really felt that even if this is filler, I don't think it was fluffy filler. There was actually a lot of legit stuff in this episode and last episode that contributed to the plot, and it was almost as if the creator made these episodes because it contributed to the plot, it added more stuff to it, and it was very intricate and detailed, and it was almost as if these were just straight out additional chapters to the actual manga. So if you get bored of the manga, or if you've already been caught up with the manga, this is a good go-to, because you get the action with the animation, and you get new stuff that wasn't actually in the manga. And this isn't always the case. Most of the time the episodes follow directly with the manga, and I believe this is the only, maybe like the second or third time that there's been filler in the Toriko episodes. And there's been 110 episodes, so that's saying something, but I believe this is like the third time there's been filler. The first 2 times were kind of fluffy and useless. I mean, there's the one distinct time I remember before was when they did this like 2-part 2-episode mini filler arc that was definitely not in the manga and definitely filler, where they go to like the beach and then they have this sort of curry ordeal where one of the shop owners pretty much fails with the curry, and then they do this whole thing on rescuing him. Pretty much they gather ingredients and fix the whole thing. And then the other part, the other filler was where they added stuff onto the food temple arc. Oh yeah, and then there's the final one was when they did I believe it was, well, first off, it wasn't the food temple. It was the food, the place where they like worship the food. They did like a whole filler episode on that, and then the final one was this whole, you know, the arc with when they scared the apples. They extended that and added a lot of characters in it that wasn't in the manga. But yeah, so this was the first arc where there's legit new stuff. And if anyone knows, or if anyone wants to research it, please let me know exactly who created these episodes. In fact, I'll try and figure it out after I do this review. But I really feel like the actual creator of Toriko had some hand in these episodes. But let's move on from here. There are definite stuff I want to talk about for this episode. So yes, if you want a quick refresher, basically this is a 2-part episode. This is the second part, and it concludes this sort of filler, this filler mini arc. And basically, Toriko and Komatsu are sent by Setsuno to do this little bit of an errand, and they're pretty much shocked at how easy it is to capture this special ingredient, which is called, I think, golden wheat, and it is to make something called like all pasta, which basically is a pasta that is like the king of all pastas, where it can be made into any sort of pasta. And so because they're so used to high quality ingredients that take a lot of difficulty to capture, they're very surprised when they realize that you can just go to this island and pick it up really easily. So it's a kind of a shocker, but you kind of have to expect it because this is a mini arc / mini filler. And after the first episode, I couldn't really tell if it was one of these mini arcs, but after the conclusion of this episode, it's very, very clear. And so that's what happened in the first episode. And so there's a lot of things I want to talk about. The first one is they made a mistake. Other than this mistake, the whole episode was flawless. And I was very, very surprised about how they got all the details right. Like, there's so many details, they got them all right. But they made one error, and that was when they said that Zebra had gotten food on her too. If you check the Toriko Wikia and the manga, Zebra, it was pretty much acknowledged straight out that Zebra did not get food on her. Only Coco and whatever, I forgot his name, but 3 of the 4 Heavenly Kings got food on her. Zebra did not. Coco, Toriko, and the last one, I forgot his name. And so they made a little bit of a mistake on that part. But other than that, it was pretty good. The second thing I want to reference is at the end of this episode, and basically what happens is, I thought this was pretty clutch. You see like a whole scene with Girim. Girim is the main antagonist of the Toriko movie Bishokushin Special Menu. I didn't see this movie, but I checked the Wikia, and this is the guy. And what's so clutch about this is the fact that he only appeared in the manga once, and the only time he appeared in that manga was the latest episode of Toriko, the latest chapter of Toriko the manga, which occurred less than a day ago. This chapter was released like less than a day ago, and he only showed up on the cover. Like there's a cover panel for this chapter, and he shows up as one of like the people on the cover, and it's very, very strange how he showed up. And on top of that, in this cover slide, I'm looking at it right now, there's also this red-headed girl, and she shows up in this cover as well. But other than this, neither of them show up in the chapter. So those are the only 2 occurrences. And I believe basically what's going on is they're promoting this movie, and they're making a point to promote this movie. So they put them into the latest episode of Toriko and the latest chapter of Toriko, just briefly. And the thing is, I think these episodes come out like once every 2 weeks, because the last episode before this like was 2 weeks ago, so they come out pretty slow. But they've been on point to do this, and from what I've been told, this movie is not yet released yet, and I believe it is it is the second film for Toriko, so it does make sense. And they do a lot of little bit of snippet scenes that reference the movie, like hint at the movie. Like you see a lot of stuff at the end of this episode that hint at the movie. At first I was like, what's going on? Is this part of the plot of the manga, or is this something else? And it's very clear now that it's just hinting at the movie, sort of like a teaser in order to make you want to buy the movie. And so what we see is, again, spoiler alert, we see a little bit of exchange with Yu having captured Infinity and this guy Gurim, and apparently he is some sort of inspector for the Bishokuken. And yeah, then we see another scene with this red-headed girl in a field of giant sunflower seeds, and then she's like, I have this feeling of unease, and then the screen pans out. And then this girl is very weird. She's like, she has this red hat on, she's dressed very strangely, like in some sort of formal dress, and she has red hair, which is congruent with Garim, so maybe this is her daughter or wife, we don't know. But she's definitely associated with him. We've seen her twice, once in this episode, once on the cover of this week's Toriko chapter. And another thing I want to note is, in the cover we also see this crazy dragon. It's like a white dragon, but it has like red and green like spikes, so it's kind of like again, I forgot her name, but his name, but he's like he's the one of the four heavenly kings with the rainbow hair. I can't believe I forgot his name. But we do see this dragon, and then like we see flames around him. So I'm assuming it's part of the movie, and we're just going to keep it like that. And I'm pretty sure it's part of the movie because that's pretty much the cover slide for the movie. So again, we see a lot of stuff revolving around the movie, and one thing I do want to say before I move on is that we see a final scene where we see like dark red eyes, and this can't be Joy, it has to be another movie reference. So that's just a little bit of a sneak peek on that. Joy doesn't have red eyes, and the red eyes were kind of slanted, so they weren't like Joa's. I believe those red eyes were this dragon, and I believe these guys are all, I guess, the antagonists of this movie, which will be very exciting for those who want to see this movie. And so I don't know if I have time, but yeah, for me to do this review on this episode is saying something, because as I've said before, I usually do not do movies or anime episodes or anything like that because I hate filler. I hate it when you get filler because the episodes are not under the coordination of the main creator of the series. And so that's a big problem, and that's why I don't usually watch episodes. But with Toriko I have, because sometimes you get bored and you can't wait for the next episode, and on top of that you have stuff, you like watching the fight sequences, and they're usually better animated rather than just panel by panel. So this episode, I really have to give it a good, I would say 8.6 out of 10, which is a very solid rating. Usually episodes get lower ratings because they are episodes in anime, and especially filler episodes. I mean, those get horrid ratings from me usually, and I really like this for a multitude of reasons. Another one of the little things that they got spot on was Komatsu's food luck. Assuming this is filler and not from the original creator, they really got Komatsu's food luck spot on when basically the Infinity, if you want a quick summary or refresher, Yu is trying to capture this Infinity because it will lead them to one of Akatia's full course menus. And so basically the Infinity is following Komatsu because Komatsu has a bit of golden wheat. And Yu remarks on how Komatsu has ridiculous food luck because first off, the century soup was attracted to Komatsu, which I don't really understand because sure, he was there during the whole Ice Hell arc, but he had already left in his miniature GT Robo, so there's no way of him knowing that the Century Soup was attracted to Komatsu. However, we do know that Komatsu ended up releasing and creating his own Century Soup, so maybe that's how he deduced it. But yeah, he remarks on how Komatsu's food luck allowed him to get the century soup, and now it's allowing the Infinity to follow Komatsu, even though there's like a whole field of golden wheat, and yet the Infinity chooses to follow Komatsu's golden wheat. And so it really parallels everything that's going on, and it really parallels what's going to happen later on in the plot, as we know because we've read the manga, with Komatsu experiencing more food luck during the chef tournament games, and it really illustrates the fact that food luck doesn't necessarily mean that you're exceptionally strong or that you're guaranteed the food. I mean, even though the Infinity followed Komatsu, you still managed to capture it. So that's a very dangerous thing. They can just, that pretty much means that they can use Komatsu as a sort of beacon to capture foods, and then they'll just snatch the food from Komatsu. So Komatsu is not guaranteed the food, as illustrated in this episode when the Infinity followed Komatsu, but you just straight up followed Komatsu and caught it. And yeah, the episode ends with you taking the Infinity fully captured in a jar to the Bishokukai and like walking around in the Bishokukai headquarters with the food. So it's very sad how that happened, but yeah, it's very scary because I mean, if you've been reading the manga, the latest chapter, Komatsu's in a very precarious situation, and he's most likely going to go to either the Bishokukai or potentially Neo. And Toriko is pretty much dead. He's like, well, he's not dead, but he's unconscious and severely wounded. So Komatsu will most likely not be returning to the IGO faction. And so it looks like Komatsu's screwed. They're going to use him as a sort of food luck beacon and then just capture the foods from there. And it's a very dangerous thing because despite him having this food luck, that doesn't mean all this food attracted to Komatsu is guaranteed to go into Komatsu's mouth alone. And so just a quick summary on the chapter. Basically what happens is they go to the place, they get pointed to it by a fisherman, and it's like super easy. Like apparently this is a special capture ingredient, but they freaking just go to the island, pick up the food. They were actually directed there by like a fisherman because it's apparently blatantly obvious where the field is because it glows so brightly. So it's, even though it's a special captured food, it's super easy to capture. And then so the duel with Toriko, Yu versus Toriko, I thought it was very well done. Yu is in like a new GT Robo, but he turns on to like the full power mode, and it crashes the Robo. Like he starts like parts of his body start like emitting sparks and electricity. So he can't go full out on Toriko. Toriko shows is completely pointless. He says he's not going all out, and then Yu's like boasting that the GT Robo triples the user's power and speed, and yet here is Toriko just like saying he's not even going all out because he doesn't want to damage the golden wheat field, and yeah, he's effortlessly beating the GT Robo. Well, not effortlessly, but pretty much barely moving. And I thought this was very well done because it exemplifies the food honor arc where he's learned to use as little energy as possible to conserve energy in dealing with his foes, so he barely moves in order to defeat Yu. Now I do think that I do think that Toriko has grown tremendously in power and speed and everything with food honor, and it's clear that he would have beaten Chiyo if Chiyo had stayed. However, I mean, Yu is pretty up there in terms of the Bishokukai ranking, and if in fact the GT Robo triples his power and speed, I don't think that Toriko would be a actual viable opponent. So for them to depict it like this, and for you to be so shocked that Toriko admits that he's not even going all out, I don't think it's really accurate, and it hints at that the fact that this is filler, and they don't truly understand how the creator's mind works, or they truly understand how the manga has been told so far, because from what I've seen, the GT Robos, all of them so far, their main limitation, like the main thing, like the whole thing revolving around them, that's a problem, is the fact that they cannot match the power and speed of the actual user, and that is why they are much weaker than the actual users. And this was exemplified when Starjin used his in the Regal Mammoth arc. He was constantly complaining about how it could never match his actual speed and power. There was like a delay and stuff. And so to say that this new prototype is 3 times as powerful, I don't think that's how it works. But regardless, I really like the fact that it parallels how the Bishokukai are in fact prepping for what is going to come, which we know because we've read the manga, which is the whole invasion of the chefs during the chef fest, the cook fest, and the preparation with new prototype models and mass production of GT Robos. And so I really think it is a good thing that they didn't really go all out. Neither did Toriko, and you could not, because his goal was the Infinity, not to fight. And on top of that, the prototype pretty much malfunctioned when he tried to go all out on it. And so I think another thing is that I still think realistically he could have wiped out Toriko even if it malfunctioned. So again, it hints at this is filler, but who knows, maybe not. This is another occurrence of a Bishokukai member who bumps into Toriko but doesn't want to kill him because he's more interested in other things. And so if this is legit, I really think that the Infinity is a huge step. They shouldn't have let him have it so easily, but they did, and it's a huge step towards the Bishokukai obtaining Akatia's full course menu. But again, this is potentially filler. And then finally, another thing I did like, and again, what I just said is why I lowered the rating slightly. I didn't like this whole three times as powerful and 3 times as fast thing. And the last thing I want to reference is, let me think, I forgot. Oh yes, basically, Setsuno, they do this like little bit of a hint, or what's the word? A little bit of a hinting towards the next arc, which would be the 4 Beast arc. Setsuno's apprentice comes in and she mentions how she's frozen dry 10 million all pastas in the form of cup ramen for storage, and they don't explain why, but it's an obvious hint towards the 4 Beast arc where they have to protect all the millions of humans. And one thing very interesting to note was when her apprentice says, "Setsuno, why did you go about asking Komatsu to do this? You could have prepared the all pasta in 3 minutes." And in this episode, we see Komatsu taking 3 days to prepare it. So I really think that was a very, very good reference to Setsuno's skill level in terms of a chef, and potentially her power as a fighter. And I really think this is a very decent representation and knowledge of Setsuno's power. And you really need to understand the manga and read it to understand this, because if you actually see later on, especially in this latest arc, the most latest arc with them fighting in the Cookfest, Setsuno is super powerful. Like, she's taking on, again, spoiler alert, she's taking on Zaus and Karibo, like, Zaus being the #1 chef in all of the human world ranked right now, and Karibo being one of those people in the gourmet world, and I mean, even Toriko couldn't handle the gourmet world. And then, like, I think one other person from the gourmet world on the IGO faction, and she's taking on all these people without even taking out her personal knife. Like, she wasn't even going all out against them. And then she finally had to take out her knife when Joa showed up. But Joa was on the power level of the 3 disciples of Akatia, so she obviously had to take out her knife. But the point is, man, crazy stuff, crazy stuff. And I really think that saying that with Setsuno being able to prepare this all pasta in 3 minutes is a very good representation of her powers. And I really like the whole thing with Setsuno saying, okay, preparing the all pasta like you just did, Komatsu, is equivalent to cooking the bubble fruit. So don't even worry about it. Don't be disappointed that you weren't able to capture the real bubble fruit like Toriko did. Although, again, if you are a diehard fan and you've actually watched this video until now and you want to do the research, another potential plot hole in this episode, which I don't really like, maybe it's just me not understanding it properly and it's not a plot hole, but from what I read in the manga, and I'm actually going to look this up after finishing this video, but I really think in the manga what happens is after the food honor arc, Toriko takes back some bubble fruit along with him. I know he said that he ate all the bubble fruit at the temple, but later on he brings some back, and Komatsu does in fact cook it and prepare it for everyone to eat. So it's kind of strange that this episode is saying that Komatsu is disappointed that he wasn't able to capture and cook the real bubble fruit, because he is. I mean, he isn't able to capture it along with Toriko because Toriko was the only one allowed to go to the real bubble fruit. But regardless, he was able to cook it from what I remember from the manga. I have to check up on that. But I think that's another thing that's wrong with this episode. I think they messed up and they forgot about that. But that's the only thing. And that is why I lowered my rating. But regardless of all this, I think final rating for this episode, 8.25 out of 10, which is still very, very solid, especially for an anime episode. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. They already have a lot of info on this guy, Jirim, including his whole body and all this artwork for him, even though this movie is yet to be released. But yeah. If you guys want to watch the episodes, you can watch them for free at hulu.com or the Funimation website, although there are occasional commercials to go along with them. But yeah, final thing is the Toriko, the movie Bishokushin special menu will be out soon. So check that out if you want. You'll most likely be able to watch it for free somewhere online once it comes out. It comes out in 7 days, July 27th. 2013, and that's about it for this video. So like, comment, rate, and most importantly, subscribe if you're not subscribed for more videos from me. And thank you sincerely if you took the time to watch this entire thing. I know most people will have clicked away long before the end of this video, but thank you if you're actually a die-hard Toriko fan and you took the time to watch out this whole video. Thanks. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.